So what is the NetSuite solution? NetSuite itself is a role-based application delivered entirely through the cloud. The application is fully integrated, all built around the core business processes. This allows the system to deliver real-time information to all of your users based on their specific roles. Surrounding the core solution are the many advanced modules that NetSuite offers. These modules can further extend the functionality into more comprehensive areas to meet specific requirements for the various industries that NetSuite supports. The advantage here is that the core always remains simple to use, and so NetSuite can be used by businesses of multiple sizes, as smaller companies can keep the solution very, very simple, whilst larger companies can have more comprehensive functionality delivered as part of their installation. This means that the solution is not only simple for smaller businesses, but delivers comprehensive solutions, but at a cost that is lower than traditional applications. The roles can control the user's access, and these roles could be set up for specific areas of the application or could cover the breadth of the functionality available. A user can have one or many roles, so this is a choice that is created during the implementation. These roles are not just internal roles. You can have these roles extended to your customers, your partners, and your vendors, and can also open up the system to third-party applications if you so require. As the solution was built exclusively for the cloud, it supports the many different ways that businesses work today. So whether your team want to access through any browser or through a mobile application on iOS or Android, or whether or not you have social media feeds, all of that information can be made available to you within the core NetSuite system. The system itself is dashboard driven, and users can change those dashboards as you would change any other portal that you use on the internet. As the application is real-time, users will be able to drill down through their portal, through their dashboard to the underlying data source to show how KPIs or reports have been generated. The role that the user is accessing is what controls the level at which they can drill down. As you would expect from a solution such as NetSuite, it is extremely flexible. Surrounding the core application is the NetSuite Platform. This, in my opinion, is the true power of the NetSuite solution, as it allows users to customize the application to meet specific needs on an ongoing basis. These customizations do not touch the underlying source code and therefore do not restrict users from upgrades and being locked into specific versions in the ways that have plagued on-premise solutions of the past. All NetSuite users worldwide are upgraded twice a year, so any of these customizations will carry forward during that upgrade process. The platform itself has a number of areas included, with SuiteBuilder being a toolkit that allows your system administrators to create custom fields and records and forms to meet the uniqueness of your business process. SuiteBuilder allows you to share access or share the customizations with other account holders of NetSuite or download through the repository. SuiteFlow is a native workflow engine that is embedded within the application and can drive a specific process through the NetSuite solution, but can also change the behavior of screens and forms based on individual users. And we'll see some of that when we start the demonstration. You've also got SuiteAnalytics, which is the native report writer and business intelligence tool that comes with NetSuite. So users can analyze any specific data point, whether it's native NetSuite fields or any of the customizations I mentioned before. And for the more technical users within the organization, there is SuiteScript and SuiteTalk. SuiteScript is a native Java scripting ability, so users can really build out additional functionality or processes based on these scripts. And SuiteTalk allows for web service integration through other applications should you need to. As I mentioned, NetSuite offers business intelligence natively. So depending on your user community, if people want graphical representation of data, whether they need a whole raft of standard or customized KPIs to meet or to measure your business areas, whether they need reports presented to their dashboards that are unique to them, or whether they are presenting trends or analysis on a daily basis. All of this information can be generated using the native business intelligence within NetSuite. And it just works. What I mean by that, as NetSuite is delivered exclusively in the cloud, it is one of the most secure environments for businesses today. The system itself is certified through a number of audit standards. It's PCI level 2 compliant, so high level of security. And the service itself is delivered by Oracle. So if you were to go to status.netsuite.com, you would see the performance of the NetSuite solution over the preceding 7 days. Why this is important is every NetSuite user worldwide has an agreement with NetSuite, and within that agreement is a 99.5% uptime guarantee. So you can always rely on your solution being there when your users expect it to be. So now I'm going to swap into a live demonstration. As I mentioned at the beginning, I'm going to start with an overview of the application, looking at the roles and dashboards and the flexibility that I mentioned. Then I will take you through an end-to-end business process of lead to cash. So we'll see data flow from this all the way from a customer approaching an organization through a sales process through to a sales order process, fulfillment and invoicing process. And then finally, we'll look at the accounting entries that are created in real time and the reporting options that are available. As you can see across the top is my menu structure, and this menu path, or center as NetSuite refers to it, is tied to my user. As you can see at the moment, I'm currently in as the CEO. So what I'm looking at is information across the business. My dashboard itself has a whole raft of key performance indicators that I can review. I've also got a number of graphs that are presented to me. I've got areas of reminders of things that I might need to approve. And we've also got some various analytics or ratios that I as an executive am monitoring. Should I wish to drag and drop things around, I can move these portlets around to suit my need. If I'm unsure of some of the information that's presented on my KPIs, I can decide to drill through a specific number and see, well, what's making up that particular receivables balance, and then I can see the customers with outstanding amounts. If I want to hone in on a particular customer, I can see the number of transactions that may be sitting on their account and the age of those particular invoices. If I want to go further and say, well, what is this particular invoice that has been sitting on their account for so long, I can drill all the way through. As I mentioned in the presentation, my role is controlling whether I can get all the way down to the source data. So here's the invoice transaction, and I can see exactly what it was that the customer purchased and the amounts that they paid. But I don't need to stop there. I can decide to go and review exactly who this customer is and some information on their master record, so I can start to drill across the database to start to find information out And you'll see now that the menu is highlighted that I'm at this point, so I'm in this part of the menu path. So here I can see information about the customer. I can see their name, address, their web details. I can also see their default address, and as I mentioned, because of cloud technology, I can drill through and go to information in the public domain to see exactly where the customer is in their location. If we come back to the customer record, we've also got a whole raft of other information that may or may not be relevant. All of this data is completely configurable. But some of the key pieces of information that I can store against a customer would be the contacts and the people within that organization that we deal with. If we have parent and child relationships within a customer, head office and branches, they can be stored as well. You can capture communication that's gone backwards and forwards to the customer, any activities or any files that you're storing or user notes. A customer can have many addresses. If I look under the sales area, I can start to see a lot of the transactions that are placed, so I can see all of the sales opportunities that are currently open. So this is information that's currently sitting within our CRM part of the solution. I can start to see the sales team that are involved, other transactions that might be on the customer's record, whether it is invoices, sales orders, anything else, and I can start to filter what it is that I want to see against all of the transactions. If I just select all, then it will load everything in there. Other information that can be useful could be things like items that they've purchased. So if I want to start to use all of this history and start to create marketing campaigns for customers that have purchased specific items over a period of time, I can start to see that kind of information, and this will show me exactly what this customer has been purchasing since they've been around. Other information, whether it's marketing related, have they opted in or opted out, if we're using that area of the CRM. Likewise, the financial information, what's the summary of their account balance, what's their credit limits and holds that may or may be applied. Also, which currencies do they work within, and also some unique pricing levels and group pricing that may be relevant to them. Other information that's quite key is things like the customer 360. So I can start to generate a scorecard of the customer, how many orders did they have, number of fulfillments, etc. If I want to look at open sales orders or the top items they've sold, or just a summary of their 12-month sales and get a buy-in history of that customer. So there's a whole raft of information on that customer record, some of which may be relevant, some there could be additional information you need, and I'll show you how you can add to that shortly. But when you're looking at a record that traditionally has a whole lot of related information, you'll see this little icon. This allows me to generate a dashboard on the fly based on the record that I was looking at. So now I can get a snapshot of all of that information in a dashboard view to show me things like what are their sales over this year versus last year, what's their forecast, etc. What's the sort of analysis that we have related to them. If I then click back to the home dashboard, I end up back where I started from. A user can have as many different dashboards as they like based on their menu structure. So, for example, as a CEO, I might want to have a dashboard that's related to board metrics. So then I can start to look at things like what's our ratios from our financial performance, what are our financial statistics, and produce graphs and KPI meters, which can be changed based on any one of those to see. So I can really interact with the data without having to start running reports or Excel or asking other people to give me information. So that's the CEO role. If I just switch now and we'll now look at the world through the CFO's eyes, we'll see that the dashboard may be more financial centric than that of the CFO, so a CEO. So the menu now is all very relevant to financial information. As I mentioned before, the users can drag and drop portlets around, but they can also personalize the dashboard themselves. So if I wanted to add additional information, be it my calendar or anything else, I can start to add those portlets very quickly and easily. And then should I wish to move that around, I can add that there. If I decide it's no longer relevant, I can simply remove the portlet from the dashboard. Now, obviously, as the CFO, I'm concentrating across the financials areas. So again, those dashboards could be configured to different areas. So if I want to look at the accounts receivable area, I can produce a dashboard that focuses in on those metrics. Likewise, if I want to create an accounts payable area, so be it. And then when I'm talking to those various accounting departments, I'm looking at the information that they're also seeing on their dashboard. One final role I'm going to go into is the administrator role. And the administrator is the system administrator's option. So as a system administrator, I have access to every part of the application. Now, when I started the demonstration, I started drilling down through the KPIs from the CEO. Up here is the global search. So if I was to type in the customer that we went to, you'll see that it finds a whole raft of information for me. If I want to prefix that was saying I'm only looking at customers, then straight away it only finds that customer. You'll see that I can dynamically generate the dashboard from here. I can go and click on the customer record, or I can go into edit mode of the customer, which will highlight the fields that we saw when we were looking at this customer record through the CEO. Now, in the edit option, you'll see all the fields are opened. And if I was to maybe click on one of the fields, you'll see that there's an explanation as to what that field is about. Whereas if I click on something else, you'll see that this is a custom field that's been created in this demo account. Now, you can modify that description, but for this demonstration purposes, we're highlighting the fact that this is a custom field. If I wanted to add an additional field to the record, it's very, very simple and easy to do. So up here, you can see I can go and enter a new field. So I can leave that customer record and go and create a new field. I now need to give it a name, so maybe we'll say number of stores. You can see it's automatically said this belongs on the customer record, as that's where I was when I went into the customization option. But I could tag it to any other entity. I can then decide where do I wish to display this, and we'll select the main tab and just select that. Now, I could put validation for things like making the field mandatory or sourcing data from other parts of the system, but for the purpose of this demonstration, I'm just going to leave it there. So when I save that record, or that has now created that field that is now on the customer record. Now up here, we've got the recent records option. So because I was in the customer, I can go straight back to the customer without having to go through the menu structure and find that record that way. So you'll start to see how different users can access different parts of the systems by whichever way makes the most sense to them. So now we're back at the customer record, and you can see that the number of stores has now been added. Now, what I can also do is start to fill in this. So by selecting that the purchased in the last 12 months, you'll see that the date of purchase now has an asterisk against it. So if I was to try and save that record, it would say you haven't filled out a mandatory field. So if I come back to that field and put in a date, and then press save, the system will now accept that record. Now, what's controlling that, because this field became mandatory based on me selecting that field, is the workflow engine that I mentioned earlier. So if we were to go and look at the workflows, we will see that there is a workflow there for making the last purchase date. So if I was to go and open up that workflow, we can see it's a very simple workflow specifying that we're going to make the purchase date mandatory. If I select that, and we can see that we've set the field mandatory based on if the last purchase date was true, then the field becomes mandatory. If I double click, it'll open up that so we can see the condition is triggered on that field. If that field is true, then this field becomes mandatory. So workflow can be very comprehensive and can drive business processes through the application, but as you can see, it can also be something very simple just to ensure that the user follows the rules that you're setting based on the customizations that you've developed. Okay, and finally, we've got the shortcuts. So as a user, if I was to go into a specific area and decide that that's something I want to go to on a regular basis, I can simply go and add that to my shortcuts, give it a name and save it. And then when I come back to my dashboard, you'll see that the transaction or the shortcut is now there within the drop down, but it's also a portlet that's available to me as a user. So you can see that the system is extremely flexible and different users will interact with the system in different ways. So now what I'm going to do is take you through an end-to-end business process. So as I mentioned, we're going to start with a lead and we're going to drive that lead all the way through our sales process, through to our sales ordering process and fulfillment, and finally through to invoicing and collecting payment. So to start the process, we're going to act as the sales representative. So when I swap into the sales rep role, you'll see that again my dashboard is different to that of the CEO and CFO. I have completely different menu structure because everything is to do with the selling process. I have a number of reminders telling me the opportunities I've got to close and the events I've got to respond to, etc. But also when I look at the KPIs, I can see there's a number of leads there available for me to action, and I can drill through and have a look at those, and we can see we've got a number of qualified and a number one. Now I may also know that I've got another lead, so I may want to create that lead straight away. So if I go and create the lead, I could say that it's I can say this is a qualified lead, or I could leave it as unqualified, and maybe I look at my leads in different statuses, but for this we'll say it's a qualified lead. And if you have multiple subsidiaries within your organization, I can associate the leads to different subsidiaries. I can also have my role associated to a subsidiary if I only work within one of the companies. Now I could go and fill out the other information, being their email address, their physical address, and any additional information I want. But to keep things moving, we'll say that is a company, and we are going to save that lead. So now if I was to come back to my dashboard, I can see now that I've got 4 qualified leads, and the lead is now sitting there as qualified. So if I didn't create it, I could pick that up and work from there. Now, if I didn't create the lead and the lead came in through a web store or a website or for a marketing campaign, then leads can be assigned to sales executives based on a number of different rules. It could be my territory, my country, my product range, etc. But for this, we're saying this is somebody that I've created. So as a lead, I can go and start to capture information about the customer if I want to go and create notes or send emails to them, or plan specific activities, whether it's a task, whether it's a phone call to call them in a week's time or something like that. So I can start to build up that history. But should I know that the customer is currently in the market to purchase something, I could decide to create a sales opportunity off this lead. So under this create new option, I could go and say I wish to create an opportunity here and now. So it will pull the lead information into the opportunity record and allow me to start capturing information about the lead. So we can say it's computer hardware opportunity, and you can see it's starting to say that we've got the probability factor being 20% because the status is currently in discussion. If I was to say I'm on any of the other status codes that are completely user definable, we can see the probability factor has now changed to 30%. So you can control the process that salespeople will take the opportunity through. Now under the item, I can specify what it is that the customer is going to purchase. So this is the CRM now having full integration with the inventory management solution and allowing me to, one, select from the item codes, but also see what's available. So if we select the item, I could select it from a number of different payment price levels that we may have set up on the item, and you can see the price changes. So the salesperson can start to negotiate the sales process. If I wanted to, I could add other items to the area, but you can, for now, we will just leave it as one. You can see that by selecting the item, it's calculated the opportunity value, and because of the probability factor, it's given a weighted total which will be reported in the sales forecast should the sales management start to view that. So we will leave the sales opportunity at that stage. Now, whilst I've created the sales opportunity, you can see that it's obviously tagged to the lead that we created, but if I double click on the lead, you'll see now that the lead is identified as a prospect. Because that opportunity record has been created, the system has automatically moved that lead through the sales process. If I come back to the opportunity, if I wanted to, I could go and maybe generate an estimate or a quote off that opportunity, and you can have as many estimates or quotes as you need. But for this, we're going to say the salesperson has gone ahead and closed the sales order or closed the sale, so we're going to convert that opportunity directly into a sales order. So because a lot of the data was captured during that sales process, the system has automatically built the sales order with the information. So it's brought through the subtotal, brought through the customer, the date, and if we come down, we can see that we've got the item set up. If I want to associate with a specific warehouse, I could say that we're fulfilling out of a particular warehouse, or again, I could have that default. Other information that I may want to capture, being shipping information and whether or not it's to be delivered by a certain courier, etc., or if there were multiple addresses, I could ship to different locations. But again, for now, we'll just keep the sales order very simple. So by saving that sales order, that will generate the sales order number and move the process on. But we can see we've been given the sales order number, however, the sales order is pending approval. Because I'm the sales rep, I don't have the ability to release that sales order into the business, so it's now been passed through another workflow for somebody else to approve. So if I now swap roles and go in as the sales manager, we will see on the sales manager's dashboard that there's a number of sales orders awaiting approval. So if I was to drill through the reminder, we'll see that the order I've just created is now sitting there awaiting my approval. If I want to see information against it, I can drill in, or I could have approved at that point. But all of the information that was entered is all there. So as a sales manager, I can determine, is that the right price? Are we making enough margin, etc.? And when I'm happy, I can go ahead and approve that sales order and release that for the warehouse to fulfill. So the status now has changed to pending fulfillment. So now if I was to swap to the warehouse, that sales order should be waiting for me as the warehouse manager to go and pick, pack and ship those specific items. So again, on the reminders, we've got a number of sales orders to fulfill, number of orders to ship, number of orders to pack, etc., and a number of purchase orders to receive. And again, the menu structure is all around the inventory management now. But we'll just follow the process through and look at the orders awaiting fulfillment. Again, we can see the order that I've created is now sitting there. Again, I could just go and bulk fulfill if I needed to, but if I want to review, I can drill through and start to see the details of the order. So I can see what it is that I need to pick, so I can go ahead and start the fulfillment process. Now, based on your requirements, you may take an order through a picking process, a packing process, and a shipping process. For this, we're going to default it to shipped, so that as far as we're concerned, when we save this transaction, we are taking one out of stock, and the stock has been downdated and the goods have been sent on their way. But I could take it through every step of the process should I need to. But for now, we'll just save that, and that will then fulfill the order. So I'm now going to switch back to my system administrator, and to show all of the menu structure. And if we go through and we look at sales orders, and we just take a list of them, and we'll say we come right to the bottom, we can see that there's our order. We can see that it's now pending billing. So I can go ahead and open up that order. So it's been moved to pending billing because the warehouse is fulfilled. If I come down here, we can see that we picked, packed and fulfilled one against the quantity ordered one. Nothing is on back order, so everything is ready to go. So if we just generate the invoice, obviously I could run a billing process and bill all sales orders, but to complete this process, we'll just generate this particular invoice. So again, it's pulled through the details, pulled through the items, the pricing, etc. So we could choose to save and email the invoice directly to the customer, or I can just save it internally. Now, when I generate that invoice, if we look under the actions, we will see the GL impact, and you will see the general ledger account codes that have automatically been updated by me saving that record. So there's no background processes for creating accounting distributions. Everything is in real time. If I return to the invoice, you can see I can now go ahead and accept payment for that invoice, or should there be an issue, we can start the returns process. But for now, we'll say the customer was very happy and they have paid. I can specify which bank account I've paid into, or it's been paid into. If you have multiple bank accounts, you can select from that, or you can post it into an undeposited funds area and then have a deposit process when you get communication from the bank. Should a customer take a discount, prompt payment discount, that can be recorded there. If they paid incorrectly, you can change the payment amount. If they were paying a number of invoices, you could apply that amount across all of the invoices just selected. Now, this is quite a simple process. so we can go ahead and just say they've paid in full. So again, if I go and look under the GL impact, we can see that we've deposited the funds into the bank, cleared the accounts receivable, and again, everything was posted in real time. So that's the end-to-end process. We've created this lead, we've moved it through a sales process, we've gone through a sales order process and fulfillment, and we've gone through an invoiced and paid. If I come back to the original sales order, we will see that the sales order is billed. If we drop down and look at related records, I can see that there's the item fulfillment number and there's the invoice that was created. I can also see that it came off the sales opportunity that we created. If I was to go and look at the invoice that was created, again, the related records will show you other related information so we can see which payment number. So once a process has moved its way through the application, you have full visibility and you can track it along its way. So that should show you the extent of the business processes and how easy it is to move data throughout the application. So finally, we're going to end on looking at the reports that are available natively, how those can be modified, and how you can start to produce further ad hoc queries. So to start with, under the reports area, there is over 200 reports that are delivered natively with NetSuite. So users can go ahead and use any of these reports. When you look at a report, the system will give you the standard layout that comes out of the box. Then you may look at this report and think, well, that's nearly how I would like the report to run. Now, it could be that you can change, just by changing the filters, you may be able to meet your needs. Should it be that you want, I don't know, 45-day buckets, you can do that, and then each column will become 45 days rather than 30 days. But if it's more than that, there is this ability to customize any of the reports. So if I click into the customization option, first thing that happens is the report gets renamed, so you can't override the standard, so you can always go back to the standard should the report not end up the way you want it to. But it is brought all of the information from the report definition into this layout. Now, I could look at that and think, well, the only thing that was missing for me was the age of those debts. So if I click on the folders, you can see that it gives me a whole raft of fields and ages there. So I don't need to know which database table or links or anything like that. I just know that I want the age. So by clicking on the age, it pulls the age into the report preview. Now I may say, well, actually, I want to drag that over there because I don't want it at the end. I want it as a second column. Then if I click on preview, you'll see within 2 clicks, I've managed to modify the report and added additional information to it. So that's one way that users are going to be able to extend the reporting capabilities to meet their unique needs. If I go and look at some of the financial statements then, these slightly different layout because they're based on the chart of accounts, but we can see the structure is all based on our chart of accounts. A couple of other things that are available within the financial statements. Obviously, I'm looking at this fiscal year, which gives me the date, but I could decide to change the dates and then that becomes custom. And if I was to refresh that, the information would be reported across those accounting periods. Now, if I have got information across accounting periods, I may choose to say, well, actually, I'd like to break that down by the accounting period. So let's select the accounting period hierarchy, and now I can generate the report across the page so that I can see the information in each one of the accounting periods. So it's very quick and easy to do. If I bring this back now to the total, and refresh that again, It may be that we want to include another column here, which is the prior period. So again, what I can do is customize. Now, unlike the AR report that I customized, because this is a financial statement, the first layout is to do with the layout of the rows and things like that, so which account numbers are appearing in each area. But we're going to leave that as it is. All I want to do is go into the columns, which is what I want to change. And we can see we've got the financial rows and we've got the amount. So again, if I look under financial and then look under amount, I can add a second amount column. So if I was to run the report now, I'd just end up with two columns with the same information. Because that column is highlighted, what I can say is this is now relative to the report date. And what I want it to be is maybe, actually let's do last fiscal year. And then if I preview that, again, with a couple of clicks, I've created a rolling income statement. So very simple and easy to do. And as long as people understand the data structure of your chart of accounts or your customers, then they will be able to modify the reports without relying on the IT department or third parties to develop those reports. Now, the final thing that I want to show is something that's extremely powerful within NetSuite, and this is what NetSuite calls a save search. So what we're going to do is create a search, and we're going to say that the search is going to be based on our customers. So I could just run a search if I just wanted to run information across a customer base, but I actually want to go ahead and create it as a save search. So if I switch into save search, we can do customers as a search title. So now the system is highlighting its criteria. So I could say, well, I'm interested in customers where the balance is, say, greater than 10,000. If I set that and then just preview, we'll see if there's any customers that meet that criteria. So we can see it's found 15 customers that meet the criteria. I come back to my save search. Then I can decide, well, what is it that I want to see? So these were the columns that the system gave me, but I really don't want any of these. But what I would like is to actually see the balance. So again, I'm not worrying about database table names or things like that. I'm specifying exactly what it is in English. I could choose to sort this information. I could choose the output to be in a report or a graph, but we're going to keep it normal layout for here. So again, if I was to go ahead and preview, now we can see the balance is there. So we can see exactly what they owe. Now I might want to do further highlighting on this. So if I go into the highlighting area, I can now start to say, well, if the balance is greater than maybe 100,000, then maybe I want to set the text color to be a different color, and maybe I want to make them bold, and maybe I want to put some kind of image there. And click add. So now when I preview, you can see it starts to do a bit of traffic lighting to highlight those ones that really do need my attention. Now, I said that Save Search is really some of the real power of NetSuite, because so far this is a way of generating a report, but other information can use this. The Save Search can be used to drive additional behavior. So I could say, right, well, I actually want this to be a reminder, so it's on somebody's dashboard. I could say that I want it to be on a sub-list view, but for now we'll just say it as a reminder. But I could also say, well, instead of notifying me that these are the customers with overdue debts, I could decide actually that if something met this criteria, then the output is to automatically send an email to somebody. And that might be the customer, or it may be somebody internally. But for now, we'll just leave it as a reminder, and we'll save that save search. So that gives us the layout that we created. If I come back to my dashboard, we will see that I've got my reminders. Now I can configure that. So I could say, well, actually this is important, so I need people to be aware of it. So you can see my overdue customers is there with a little C in there, which means it's a custom reminder. So I can add that to my dashboard, and you'll see that we've got the 15 overdue customers. But I may also want to personalize and add that information to my dashboard as its key information. So I add the custom search, and then I set up the custom search portlet. And again, if I type in my save search and say I only want maybe the top 5 to be presented, I can save that information. So now I can still see there's 15, which is the same. I could drill through from here to see the report that we had set up, or if I come back to the dashboard, I can equally drill through from my reminders and end up back in exactly the same place. So save searches are used throughout NetSuite and can drive things like marketing campaigns, can drive workflows, can generate analysis. So it's an extremely powerful tool that will be used in all areas. So that gives you an overview of the NetSuite application. Hopefully that's given you an introduction and an understanding of the power